All right, last second sports fam. It's Tuesday, and you know what that means. I got my guy Suneil with me. Before we kick into the intro, though, make sure you stick around because tonight we're going to cover all the 49ers rumors and figure out who the starting quarterback for 2022 will be. All right, welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. Tuesday, my guy, Suneil. It's like we're best friends. You're in California. I'm in Florida. Cross country. I feel like we can come up with a pretty damn cool name. Maybe we can call it like
Coast to Coast.
No, that's something. No.
I think everybody's been coast to coast.
Hold on. That's
East
coast
to
to
west.
coast. No.
East to west.
Bay to Bay. You're not quite in the Bay though, are you?
Right.
Are you
in the valley?
Are you in the Bay? No, you're not. Okay, well, whatever. We'll figure out something. I figure we can't call it coast to coast. That's that's like a Pontes and Grants thing, but we'll come up with something. Actually, and people in the chat, if you want to, Gold Coast. Okay, I like it. Besties, yeah, we can call it. We can call it Besties. I'm sure that'll be super cool. Yeah, I can't wait. It's Besties Tuesday. Golly, how you doing tonight, man?
Man, everything's beautiful, man. It's a little nippy here in California, and when it's nippy here, it's really just probably beautiful weather everywhere else. But definitely had to put my hoodie on, which is been strange. We've had a little bit of a heat wave going on, but had a great weekend, man. Had an extra day off with the holiday, so now I'm ready to get into it, man.
Do you wear a hoodie with shorts and flip flops?
More slides, bro. I'm not a big flip.
Oh, slides. You're a slide guy. Okay. Yeah, I'm a flip flop
slides.
guy. People make fun of me. They're like, that's the weird thing between your toes. I don't know. I like flip flops. That's my thing. So I'm a hoodie. I'm a hoodie, a shorts, and a flip flop guy. Like that's the combo right there.
Yeah, that's
all
a
right,
good
man.
Look,
there's a lot to get to. A lot of rumors, and it is rumor season. I get it, but man, some of this stuff is coming beyond left field. It's coming from like field of dreams left field. Right. I don't know where these conversations are getting started. I don't know who's starting the rumors, but what I do know is there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of really good players that are tied to the San Francisco 49ers. And the first one is Christian McCaffrey. Now, you're the one that put me onto this rumor. Where did you catch this one at?
Yeah, I just saw that, Christian McCaffrey was maybe Carolina might be shopping him. And I forget exactly, and I'm the king of seeing rumors without knowing who exactly, like vetting them to find out where these rumors are coming from. But I saw a short list of teams that Christian McCaffrey might want to go to, or teams that may be interested in a back like Christian McCaffrey, and 49ers were one of those three teams. So I don't know if this is just pulling, kind of somebody just throwing out a list, or whether or not there's any real steam to this. But I have to say, Jesse, when you started talking about all of these rumors, like I don't really remember I don't think as much in the Harbaugh era, the 49ers just in dominating offseason talk year after year after year. And even though Shanahan's tenure maybe hasn't been the most winningest, I guess you could say, like he's had obviously more down years than up years. As far as interest and intrigue in the team, he hasn't missed. Every single year, there's still national news, which has been something that the 49ers have missed in a long time. It's because they just haven't, been a very winning franchise in the last couple of decades. But it's pretty nice. I mean, even though it's frustrating sometimes, and it's like a roller coaster with all of your emotions, when you take yourself out of it, it's pretty nice to still now be following a team that is just so interesting, just not to us as fans, but the nation overall.
Oh, I'm telling you, every time I get into another team's like chat room, it always somehow goes to questions about the 49ers. And then it turns into a conversation about the 49ers all the way through. And it's like, well, you guys are like fans of the Steelers or whoever. It is very interesting. And the 49ers do not lack content. Can I tell you something that's funny right now? This is
Please.
this is what's going through my mind. So I look over at you, right? And you've got the cords that are hanging down,
Yeah.
right? And it looks like they're coming from your beard.
Uh-huh. Oh,
I
you
couldn't
thought I
help but
was
to think like Dub C from West Side Connection. Yeah, that's what yeah, exactly. That's what I got. That entered my mind. So those are the things that go through my mind midstream, just so you know. Um, but yeah, okay. So here's a good one. Barkley over McCaffrey. And we have talked about Barkley. We talked about him, I believe, last week or the week before. Again, two running backs that they're going to be extremely expensive. I haven't even looked at the cap hit, but it's got to be massive, I would imagine, for the Panthers to get rid of them. So they're going to ask for a lot in return. And actually, here we go. This is perfect because we do have some Panthers guys that watch. Not like it relates to the topic, but Jesse Bates, the Bengal safety, just tweeted with the emoji. What? Praying hands 6 minutes ago. Oh, eyes, eye emoji. Oh, I don't know. What does that mean? Uh, well, that's another guy that I know that people want to target as well. So that's interesting. Matthew, question for you. Actually, hold on a second. Yeah, there we go. Christian McCaffrey, have you heard these rumors over in your side of things with the Panthers? Just a genuine question because that is something that has come across our way. People are talking about Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers. Have you heard anything about it? Again, these are rumors. Oh, yes, sadly. These are rumors that are starting from who knows where. But if I'm the 49ers, I'm not doing it. They can generate a run game with or without a stud running back. You're talking about two guys, whether it's McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley, that are both injury prone. I'm good. Like, I am good on either of those guys. Continue with what you're doing. If they're going to bring back an injured guy, just let it be Mostert. Mostert should be back on the team because we know that he works well in this system and he would be great as a change of pace guy for Elijah Mitchell. So for me, even though I don't want to bring back Mostert, I would rather pay Mostert and bring him back than trade for one of these guys. You agree or disagree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one thing now that we're 5 years into this Shanahan and Lynch tenure, we should start being able to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of this team. One of the strengths is they're able to find uh, the right type of talent for the type of scheme that they run in that running back room with low draft picks or even undrafted people or people that they could get off of waiver wires or just, free agency very cheap. And they aren't able to, so they're able to do that with the running backs, but they aren't able to do that necessarily with, some other positions that they have. So if I'm talking about assets, I want to use my assets where they're going to be the best maximized. And I think if you could get a 6th-round draft pick that could go in and be your RB1, why are you going to use any type of capital to get guys like McCaffrey or even Saquon? They're both great players, and I'm sure they would contribute a lot and open up the scheme a lot, but we are in a salary cap league. I'm not wasting assets on people that even, forget about the injury stuff. Obviously, that makes it a no-brainer, but just high assets into a position that you could get very big contribution at just from the scheme that they run, and their ability with a guy like Bobby Turner to just see talent in a different way than other people are able to see talent and get that in lower rounds. For me, that's a no-brainer. You gotta pass.
Yeah, I feel it. I'm the same way. There's a lot of conversation. Somebody in the chat suggested trading Greenlaw and Armstead to free up cap space. I'm all about trading Greenlaw, especially if they can get like maybe a late fourth for him. I think that would be a no-brainer. You've already got Aziz Al Shair that you're
Well,
going to
they'd
bring
have to
back.
bring him back. Yeah, they'd have to bring
Yeah,
back Aziz if they did that.
Yep. Yep. So that would be a must. And I'm cool with that. Like if you can get something for Greenlaw, I'm all about it. And Armstead, you really can't trade until after June 1st. I believe that the savings is only like 4 million. If you trade him after June 1st, then it would be like 17. But at that point, you're just taking an asset away from this team unless you're trading him for another player and you're gaining future assets, but that doesn't help this team win this year. And this team needs to continue to try to win. Plus, Armstead played really, really good, especially down the stretch. Him kicking to the inside was a massive change for him. And I think that it worked fantastically. I wouldn't trade Armstead, but that's just me personally. What I would consider doing, though, is restructuring Armstead because it saves you about $10 million if you do so. That is something you can do. You can restructure him, push some of that money to the back end of the contract, especially with that cap rising as much as it is, and gain some of that cap space that you probably desperately do need this offseason at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Armstead, like you could trade away Armstead, but who are you replacing him with? You know, Kinlaw is still not shown us enough to believe that he's going to be able to step into that role. You know, when DeForest Buckner got traded, there were still Armstead and Bosa on the team. So it made it easier to trade a guy like Buckner because you already had two studs on a 4-man defensive line, right? So if you trade away Armstead, now you only have one stud, and that's not as scary as 50% of your defensive line are studs. So yeah, I think the Armstead thing is at that point, you got to kind of weigh, like, is it saving money to get maybe two, I guess, rotation players as good as just having one star? I mean, to me, I think you keep Bosa and Armstead together. They seem like they're doing wonders together and are only going to grow and create more havoc as they get more and more comfortable playing alongside of each other.
Well, we might have found our new defensive tackle. This guy.
Let's go. Let's go, Smile.
We're straight. Right, good job, Smile. I like it. All right. Well, speaking of Panthers ex-players or players, Stephon Gilmore, Gilly Lock himself, coming to the 49ers. Now, this one does seem to have a little bit of legs, right? He's a free agent. He can sign wherever he wants. And we heard a little bit about this last year. Now that he's a free agent, we're starting to hear more about it. So I'll ask you two separate questions. One, do you think the 49ers are actually interested? And two, if you were running the organization, would you be interested?
So let me preface this by saying 2 years ago, I think it was, or maybe it was last offseason, I put out an article on SI saying that the 49ers should trade Garoppolo to New England and try to get Gilly Lock and a pick to be able to do that. Yeah. And so I'm really, really high on Stephon Gilmore. And especially with the way the secondary was when I wrote that article, we didn't have guys like that were just shut down corners or guys that we were like extremely high on in the secondary. It was still kind of an opportunity that the 49ers could do to upgrade. That situation has changed a little bit for me, Jesse. I am a guy that really likes what they have there in Mosley as well as Ambry Thomas. I'm really high on Ambry Thomas. I think that he's going to grow into a stud player. But even though I'm so high on those guys, neither of them are Stephon Gilmore. Neither of them are Gilly Lock, right? So I don't think that the 49ers brass is looking at a guy like Gilmore, not because they don't think he could benefit. I think just the money that he's going to be asking for. I don't think the 49ers have ever shown inclination to pay anybody in the secondary that type of money, at least from the cornerback position. Now, if it was me, I would kind of think twice about it. The reason being, the only Achilles heel that I've seen from that defense when it comes to the defense being a reason why the team lost. Because majority of the times if team loses, I don't really put it on the defense. It's usually because of lack of scoring from the other side of the ball or something happened in special teams. But as far as like, there have been a couple of games where the defense definitely didn't show out. That was week 3 against Green Bay and the NFC Championship game against the Rams. Both of those games, the star receiver ate up the 49ers secondary. Week 3 was Devontae Adams, who almost had 200 yards passing, couple touchdowns. And then against the Rams, both OBJ and Cooper Kupp obviously had big games. So when it comes to a stud receiver, we don't have anybody that you could just put this guy on this guy and you're gonna have trouble with them. That's the reason why I think where Stephon Gilmore could actually benefit the team, because you could put him on an island. It could just be Gilly Lock. Put him on Devontae Adams. Wherever Devontae Adams lines up, Gilly Lock is there. And then you could have, Mosley and Thomas play the other two corner positions. If there's, a D-Hop, Gilly could go on one-on-one with him, Cooper Kupp, all this kind of stuff. So that's where I think that he can benefit. I just don't think that they're going to be able to afford him. He's still a guy who I think teams believe can be their best corner. And I think he's going to, be one of those 12 to $15 million a year type of players that I just don't think the 49ers will be able to compete with.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm on the other side of the fence. I personally wouldn't go after him. The money obviously is one thing, but I think he's going to play this next season at 32 or 33. When you're a man corner, at some point that's just going to drop all the way off. And I would rather be on the side of, hey, we missed out, rather than signing him and then you've got a 2-year deal where you're locked in and he drops off this next season and you're stuck with him. So also, I don't think either of the other corners, whether it's Ambry or Mosley, really could kick inside. And so that is a big reason for me. I would stay away from Gilly Lock. Great career. Let somebody else spend that money. I would rather bring in somebody that can kind of compete with an Ambry Thomas, somebody like a Kyle Fuller, somebody that's 30 years old, always healthy, won't be near as expensive, and can either compete for that starting job. And if he doesn't get it, would be a hell of a backup. That's kind of where I'm leaning more towards. I think Gilmore would be a luxury because Ambry Thomas, like you said, did come on and show some really good things. And I'm comfortable with both him and Mosley as our starting corners. I really am. Now, the nickel corner spot, that's a whole different deal. But at this moment, I don't see a purpose of paying big money to a 32-year-old corner. Now, if they have an opportunity to bring in a JC Jackson, I would listen to that because he's much younger. I just don't think the Patriots are going to let him get away. Now, I know that he posted something along the lines of, the Patriots, they don't know my worth or they're not willing to give me my worth. That is going to get worked out. I would be shocked if it didn't. The Patriots really value lockdown type corners, especially when they're young. They will trade for them. They will put a lot of assets into them and they will pay them. I think at the very least he gets franchise tagged and we'll be back with the Patriots. That's just me personally. But I do want to get to this comment. Chavez, appreciate the comment, says trading Greenlaw would be criminal. No,
Greenlaw?
No, it wouldn't.
Greenlaw? Talking about Greenlaw?
It wouldn't be criminal at all. Let me be clear about this. When you're a team like the 49ers who can produce linebackers, let's not forget their defensive coordinator is a linebacker at heart. All right. They can produce linebackers. It's no reason or no wonder that Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shaair, and Fred Warner have all flourished under this man. Okay. So with that being said, just like the Steelers produce wide receivers and they are willing to trade or let those guys walk, that's what you have to do when you are a factory at a specific position. And when you're a factory at a position and you can get a 4th-round pick for a guy that you really have no business signing and giving big money to, then you get that done. And then you bring in somebody else as a 4th or 5th or 6th-round pick and you develop them. It's a cycle that will always work. And the 49ers have figured out how to draft linebackers, how to develop linebackers. I am fully comfortable letting Greenlaw walk. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same type of thing. You got to understand where the 49ers are good in this regime. And where we just talked about a weakness, maybe being like offensive line, running, and we just talked about running backs being a strength for them. Linebackers is another strength for them. So where can you got to look at running this team like a business. Where can you maximize the highest amount of return on your investment? In the game is always buy low, sell high, right? Azeez Al-Shaair was an undrafted free agent that they were able to bring in and get some meaningful play to the point where now a guy like Dre Greenlaw becomes somebody that's expendable just because you already have his replacement that's probably going to be much cheaper. You still don't lose that much if you're starting him next to Fred Warner than if Greenlaw was there. Greenlaw's going to be more expensive than Aziz, just because of the position that they were drafted at and just name recognition. So if you could get a third or a fourth for a Dre Greenlaw, you got to take that, because Dre Greenlaw is going to be very expensive next season. He's going to want to get paid because it's his first chance to get paid after his rookie contract. And, unfortunately, the 49ers are a business, and you got to make a business decision. So might as well trade somebody when you could get an asset rather than just having them walk in free agency, which may be the case just because you're not going to be able to compete with the types of contracts that he'll probably be coming in.
Absolutely. All right. Talking about Christian McCaffrey and Stephon Gilmore is really cute and all, but we got quarterbacks to talk about. This is where it gets interesting, right? Because we're talking about two all-time greats that potentially, with rumors, could end up in San Francisco. And of course, you've got the kid in Trey Lance. Let's talk the first one. Probably the least likely of the two.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers to San Francisco. Did you see his little post that he threw out yesterday?
Yeah, I saw his post. I watched a little bit about what he was saying too on the Pat McAfee show. So I think that it's kind of being blown out of proportion as far as whether or not this was like his retirement post. I just think Aaron Rodgers is in a different place in his life, and he's doing different things that, I think he's just more confident in being who he is, and who he is as a person isn't necessarily the most friendly to the media narrative of what they want a superstar to be. So I think he gets a lot more I think the narrative gets built around him different from what he may actually be. But yeah, I saw that. It looks like he was retiring. It looks like, or at least he's not going to be on Green Bay anymore. So obviously, if there's a quarterback available, for some reason, it doesn't matter who's on the quarterback roster for the 49ers, they're somehow tied to that team. So
yeah, I mean, this is a guy that's been tied to the 49ers since the day he was drafted. It's always going to be a thing. I agree with you, though. I didn't take really much from that post. Here's what I took from that post. Not a lot of football. I took a lot of personal from that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that this man was engaged, that got broken off. We already know that he's estranged with his family. They don't really talk. It doesn't seem like he's the type of guy that holds a lot of close friends. I feel like he's a bit of a loner, and being that he's aging, he's 38 years old. I can tell you, if I was 38, which I am, but I didn't have any kids or I didn't have any family to talk to, I would feel lonely, right? And so I think that's the situation that he's going through. He doesn't talk to his family. He doesn't have any kids. His fiance just broke it off with him. And I think he had a moment where he was probably feeling a little bit vulnerable and just wanted to send out some gratitude and saying, hey, I know that this is not something that I would normally do. I come off pretty cold sometimes, that I don't really care. This is an opportunity for me to just give thanks in a moment where I'm feeling pretty vulnerable as an individual. And that's the way that I took that. I didn't take it as he's retiring. I didn't take it as he's leaving Green Bay. I didn't take it as any of that. I really didn't. I'm sure that he's reflecting everything in life. It's not to say that he's not considering retirement or leaving Green Bay. I just didn't take that post as that. I just took it at face value that he wanted to show some gratitude and he's going through some things personally.
Yeah, and I mean, this, for a guy the caliber of Aaron Rodgers, obviously the biggest narrative about him happened to be his stance on COVID and the COVID protocols and the vaccine, right? So I think he's just been enamored with negativity. And on the Pat McAfee show, he talked about how he was going through a cleanse right now, and he's isolated from everybody through this cleanse, and out of the cleanse, everything that he felt was just this deep sense of gratitude. And that's been something that I think over the last couple of years, he's really made his mantra as far as gratitude. And he even mentioned, there's that picture of Cobb and Devontae Adams and then he's not in that picture. that was the game that he missed due to, testing positive for COVID. He said when Cobb and Devontae did that and it ended up getting sent to him, he cried because the thought process that he saw two of his teammates, because that's usually how they stand for the national anthem, then Aaron Rodgers, then Devontae Adams. And then after the national anthem, they embrace each other, and that's kind of their pregame ritual. To take that picture, that means they put the thought process that knowing, hey, A-Rod's not here, but we're still going to do the same tradition and we're not going to replace him. And I think he's just looking at maybe a season full of a lot of people just going at him for whatever reason. And obviously in that moment, you would think a mature person would be like, well, I could focus on all these negatives, or I could look at all the people that stuck by me no matter what I did. Right. And that's what I took from the post as well. It's just like him focusing on the positives of what's going on in his life that is good versus just dwelling on the negatives. And I think all of us in life could take a lot from that, right? It's very easy to get caught up in all the negatives and think down about where your situation in life is versus focusing on all those people that bring value to your life and are positives. And I think that's what that post is about. It's just kind of crazy in the society that we're in right now. If anybody starts saying a lot of crazy positive things, they already think he's a mental case. He needs help. Somebody in here said he needs therapy. Like, it's like, why? Because he started saying happy things? No, happiness is actually something that we should be normalized. Gratitude is something we should normalize. Like, I don't think that makes you a crazy person.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, I think it's just personal growth, right? And that's all I see from it. If I were to put a percentage on him coming to San Francisco, I would say 0.5%. Like I don't see it. Like, would you put it any higher than that, or you kind of agree?
I think it's a 0% chance, to be honest.
Well,
There's no
leaving the
way.
door open.
There's no way that Green Bay ever allows him to
I
get
wouldn't think.
to the 49ers because they're already the team that knocked him out of the playoffs so many times. Like, to then give them the best player that you have on your team, like, they're never beating the 49ers for the next 5 years if they give him A-Rod. So I don't even think it. I think it's a 0% chance.
All right. Well, I'm going to give it a 0.5 because you never know. And I don't want to be the a-hole that everybody goes and tags when it happens. The off chance it happens. You said no chance. You can be that guy.
At So Real Suneil on
Perfect.
Twitter.
He wants all the smoke.
Yeah, all the smoke. That's not happening.
All right. Dusty Gold says, can Kyle and Brady coexist? Well, my guy, you are a great setup, man, because we're going to talk about Tom Brady. This one to me does have some legs to it. A lot of legs to it, actually. So this is one that's not going away. And I want to throw a couple things at you. So listening to Croc the other morning, he was talking about, he's not a breaking news guy, but he was talking to some high rollers in Vegas with some mutual friends with the 49ers or whatever. I don't know exactly, but they were talking about it and how it's a possibility. And then you listen to or reread what Brady said. He never used the word retirement. He never filed his papers to retire. Seems like he's willing to come back and play. And after watching the documentary about Joe Montana, he's a fanboy. He's an absolute fanboy. And then the other thing that keeps getting me that a lot of people aren't talking about, we don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo is at all a fit with Tampa Bay. They like to take shot plays down the field. That is not a Jimmy Garoppolo offense. However, it has come out in back-to-back weeks that they are okay with Jimmy Garoppolo as a bridge quarterback. So that tells me they're not going to just try to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, but if he's a part of a deal involving Tom Brady, they would be okay with it. Like, that's what I gather from that. So I think there is some legs to this. I think it's a very real possibility, a lot more real than if you would ask me a week ago, I would have said, no, it's not happening. But I really feel like there's a shot here.
Let me push back a little bit because there is another kind of like narrative that's coming out where this whole situation between Brady retiring has more to do with his relationship with Bruce Arians souring. And the reason why that was souring was because I guess Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich had a very good relationship together. They would work, hourly at the beginning of the week, scheming up the offense for that game plan. And then what would happen was Bruce Arians would come in midweek when they're talking about installs and all this kind of stuff, and kind of veto some of the stuff that they were already planning. So what that tells me is, okay, the type of coach that Tom Brady is looking for is somebody who isn't going to be extremely hands-on, or isn't going to, I guess, negate the stuff that he wants to do with the offense. Now, when you look at Kyle Shanahan, does he seem like somebody who's willing to relinquish any type of control when it comes to the offense, right? And so it reminds me of who's the head coach that turned into the GM of the Boston Celtics? His name is something
Danny
Smart.
Ainge? No. You're talking about no. The guy from Brad Stevens.
Brad Stevens. That's the one. So Brad Stevens was the type of coach that, when it came to people that were like the underdogs, he would be able to get the best out of them. Mm-hmm. But when he had the ultimate talent like Kyrie and all this kind of stuff, they always like underperformed, right? And I wonder if Kyle Shanahan has the type of temperament, the personality, and the humility, I guess, to be able to work with a guy like Tom Brady, who knows that this is probably the last year, second to last year that he's playing. Is Tom Brady going to go in there and be a yes man, or is he really going to want control over what he's doing? Because that kind of seems like what Tom Brady wants after he left New England. So where you say there's some real steam there, I really don't think that it would just make sense. I don't think Tom Brady could come to the 49ers and all of a sudden Kyle Shanahan gives up control that he's never given up ever in anything that we've seen, at least.
Yeah, I think that relationship would be interesting to say the least. But if the 49ers pursue, then Shanahan has to know that that's a part of it. Like, he has to be willing to change things and work around it. Now, does that stop them from pursuing? Yeah, it definitely could. But
they've already passed on him once, right?
Yeah, they have. They definitely have. And it would be bizarre to me, right? If this is the time that you don't pass on him. So let me get this straight. 2 years ago, when Tom Brady could have been had for nothing, like, you would have just had to sign him, right? You wouldn't have to give up any capital. And he'd be replacing Jimmy G, who we know what Jimmy G is, and they should have known what Jimmy G was. You weren't willing to do it. But 2 years later, after you spend all this capital on a rookie quarterback, and you're going to have to trade something to give up to get Tom Brady, and he's 2 years older, now all of a sudden you'd be willing to? That's the one thing that doesn't add up to me. That doesn't make a lot of sense, because why would you backtrack at that type of clip? Like, that's the only pause that I have. But I really do genuinely think that Tom Brady wants to play football still. I know that he would love to be a 49er. Now, are the 49ers and Shanahan willing to reciprocate that? That I don't know. But I think that's why I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I'm confident in the Tom Brady side of things. I'm just not confident in the 49er side of things.
Yeah, I mean, and also, do we think that Tom Brady has that LeBron in him, right? To like get his way out of a team and force himself onto another team, right? Is that how Tom Brady wants his legacy to take a hit, right? He's been the poster boy for the team, leader, all that kind of stuff. That kind of is a little bit of a grimy move, right? To force, say I'm retired, just to like force your way off of the team to get to a team that you want. I don't know. That's, I guess he doesn't strike me as that type of person. It seems
this
like
man was a part of Deflategate and Spygate. I don't think he cares.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I do think he cares, though, because he could have easily done that with New England and he chose not to, right? This is also the same guy that's been paid under his value for year after year after year to help the team get better. You know what I mean? All of those things, even if Spygate, Deflategate, cheating, all that kind of stuff, it was still to make the team better. It was still to win games. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm kind of like, he's the ultimate teammate. Can you really see him looking at Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and being like, I didn't want to play with you guys anymore. I wanted to go to the 49ers. Like, he doesn't seem like that guy to me. So that's also what we're saying. But he wants to go to the 49ers is he doesn't want to play with Mike Evans. He doesn't want to play with Gronk anymore. He doesn't want to play with Chris Godwin. And have you ever heard anybody think that way about Tom Brady before? They would have to start thinking that if he made this move.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that. But at the same time, like the Patriots was one thing because they drafted him. He spent so many years there, got close with the community and the fan base. Tampa Bay is a whole different animal. I mean, he was only here for a couple years and he won a Super Bowl. You're
Mm-hmm.
welcome. Now I'm leaving. Like, there's nothing that, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't owe Tampa anything. And I feel like if it's a chance to play one season and retire with the 49ers, I think he would jump at that. I really do. And Tampa's not going to stop him. Like, this is not a Green Bay situation where Green Bay is not going to trade Aaron Rodgers to a rival. They owe him. He won them a championship. He did what he came to do. And if he wants to move on, then you oblige him. But I just, this one's hard for me because I think of all the scenarios, right? So let's say he comes. Let's live under that umbrella for a second. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Well,
No,
what I'm
no, go
trying to
ahead.
say is if this move is happening, Jesse, it has to happen within the next week and a half, 2 weeks,
Yeah,
right?
I
Because
agree.
if
Yep.
Tom Brady, you got to know who your starting quarterback is before you go into free agency, especially if
Yes.
it's a guy like Tom Brady, where having him probably changes the type of free agents you could go after or want to go after. So if there's any smoke to this, it's happening sooner than later.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's a moot point because it's not something that's going to happen after the free agency. It's something that you have to have on deck before you go into free agency and the draft.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree with that. It's not a situation where he can say, "Hey, it's June, I'm ready to play. Get me on to San Francisco." Like, that's not how that's going to work. You're
Right.
right about that, and I agree with that. But let's operate under the assumption that it happens, okay? So, I don't know what stresses me out more in thinking about this. Is it the fact that he comes and there's so much pressure on the team to win a Super Bowl and they don't win a Super Bowl? That would be terrible because now you've stunted the growth of Trey Lance for one more year. He's now gone 3 years without playing football. Or they win it, which is fantastic, but he wants one more year. And now Trey Lance is sitting a fourth year. I just I don't know. I mean, I guess winning a ring is what it's all about, and you can't be scared to do so. But I just really like Trey Lance, man, and I want to see this kid play, and I want to see him do great. And I really think he's going to be a very, very good player, if not a great player. So to bypass that potentially for the thought of maybe one ring, I don't know if it's worth it, man. What about you?
Um, I'm with you, man. I really think that Trey can be a dynasty changing quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, or creating a dynasty
Mhm.
in the fact that with Kyle Shanahan, with the way I think this team and this management side of the team has come into developing a team, I think they finally found where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. I think they're phenomenal at bringing in the right coaches. Their development has gotten better. That they're able to replace guys much quicker. If you have a stud quarterback, which I think Trey Lance can be for the
Mhm.
foreseeable future, I think you're looking at the next dominant team, like how Kansas City is on the AFC. I think that's what the 49ers are going to be for the NFC. But you got to let Trey develop. You got to let Trey cook. You got to give him the reins eventually so that he could take those kind of ups and downs and have that roller coaster, which every young quarterback has. He needs to get that season out of his system, the couple seasons out of his system. And I just feel like all we're doing by talking about that is stunning his growth. And I think there's only so much you could learn from sitting behind quarterbacks, even the greatest like Tom Brady. I mean, if you go in and don't win that Super Bowl, like you said, which I think is more likely than winning the Super Bowl, just because, that's just really tough. Um, to me, that it would be a complete waste of a year for Lance.
Yeah, everybody says, well, I mean, if it's Tom Brady, you have to jump at the chance. You'd be crazy not to. And it's like, I think there's more to it than that. I really do. I also worry about what does the future of the roster look like? You said it. You indirectly said it. If you get Tom Brady, the type of free agents you go after changes. So that means what? You're going after a bunch of 1-year veteran type guys.
Mhm.
So then what? What happens next year? All of a sudden Brady retires and all these guys are gone and Lance is left with a crap roster? Is that really how we want to approach the future? To me, it's not as simple as, oh, if you can get Brady, go do it. Like I don't look at it that way. I think there's a lot that goes into it that people aren't factoring in. So, for me, I'm not saying don't get Brady. I just think that there's a lot that you have to think about if that's the move that you decide to make. That's me personally. Keith Murphy says, appreciate you, Keith. I'd like to know what they were smoking when they turned Brady away. Now, that's a different story. By the way, to watch film on Tom Brady and have everything at their disposal that they had, that's what baffles me because I watched, I don't know, 10 minutes of the broadcast view of that Tennessee Titans game that they lost, that the Patriots lost with Tom Brady. And I knew Tom Brady still had it. So if I thought that and could pick that up, I don't know how the 49ers couldn't pick that up, but they definitely messed up on that. Then you bungle the Stafford situation, pass on Mahomes and Watson. 3 out of those 4 have won a Super Bowl. Yeah, listen, they've made every wrong move at the quarterback position, every wrong move, and I feel like they finally have made it right, and they might f it off again. So we'll see what happens here. Let me show you some love. We appreciate the donation. All right, let's talk about some players that are actually on the team since we've spent a good 42 minutes talking about other things. No,
You had
you don't get
another
to say
super
anything.
chat. You had another super
Did
chat.
I?
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right, I'll get to it. Keith again. Thank you, Keith. If Kyle fell in love with Trey the way that Andy Reid felt a lot of Mahomes, then have confidence. Andy made that pick and didn't look back. Yeah, you're right. Okay, that's the thing. I just don't feel like the 49ers ever had a plan. I had this argument with Jackhammer during, I don't know, it was probably like week 10. And we were talking about plans. I just felt like the 49ers never had a plan ever. What was the actual plan? Go after every veteran quarterback. And then when you don't get him, okay, well, we're going to trade up to 3. Well, out of these guys, we like Trey Lance the best. That's cool. But then the day of the draft, we're still trying to trade for a veteran. I felt like the whole time Trey Lance was the backup plan, right? And I think it's going to work out for them as long as they develop him. But I just don't feel like he was the guy. I mean, again, Shanahan always likes veterans. He's never had patience with the rookies. You hear it when he talks about all rookies at all positions. So for me, I just felt like the plan was never there. And so if you jump ship again and go with Tom Brady, it just proves the point even more. You never had an actual plan at quarterback ever. You're just going to go with the next best thing that's the best you can get, and you'll constantly be moving on. I just think it's a really bad look to give up assets for Tom Brady on top of what you traded for Lance to sit him another year. I don't like that look at all.
Yeah, I push back a little bit on the plan. I think the plan was to get a different quarterback into the room in that last year's draft class, knowing that that draft class is a better draft class than where the 49ers are ever going to be. Like, that was the closest the 49ers were going to be able to get to a stud quarterback probably ever, with the way the team is right now. They're not picking in the top probably 25 for the next foreseeable future with the way that they've built up this team and just the success that I believe they're going to have moving forward with Trey. So I think they looked at this year's draft class and they looked at, what they've been as far as the draft, the quarterback room that they've had. And they were like, obviously first choice was, get a guy like Watson. Then what happened with the Watson thing, obviously that's unforeseeable for them. Then they're like,
For
okay,
sure.
Matt Stafford. That was unforeseeable. Then, they go all in for this draft class, right? Because they knew that, whomever, the four or five quarterbacks, it was just a deep quarterback class. So they're like, let's be players in this draft class. Then what happened was a guy like Aaron Rodgers starts complaining about where he's at. You got to take a runner at that. So I think it's more just they were very nimble, knowing that the ultimate goal was we need to find our quarterback for the next 3 to 5 years or whatever it was. They definitely went. They wanted a seasoned vet initially, but when all of those pins started falling, I think that you might be right by saying it was a backup plan kind of thing. I don't know if it was a backup plan as far as it just became plan A just because of all these other things that just were unforeseeable for them.
Yeah, they've just been scrambling for so many years for a starting quarterback. It's just crazy to me. All right, let me play another one for you for the donation. Appreciate you, Keith. George coming in. He says, I'm just having this feeling that we may make the same mistakes and trade Trey Lance for Brady or Rodgers. Now, this is something we didn't talk about. And in 2 years, Trey Lance will go and win a Super Bowl with a different team. People need to stop. I don't think there's any shot that they're trading Trey Lance. I really don't. I think that's 0%. Like when you talked about planting your flag and Aaron Rodgers not coming here, I don't think that that's even a thought in their mind at all. Are you at the Daytona 500? Like, where are you at right now?
Bruh, I'm in these streets, man. I'm in these streets. That's all you need to know. I can't be giving away too much about what's going on in these streets. Just know I'm in them. All right.
If you hear pounding on the door and the screen goes black, we know what happened. It's all good. It's great. Golly. All right. George, I appreciate you, man. Paul likes your word usage of nimble. Enjoyed that. That was very, very good. It was good use of the word nimble for sure. All right, now let's talk about players that are actually on this team. All right, who needs to break out in 2022? So let's assume all those guys we just talked about are not coming here. Who needs to break out in order for this team to continue to have success and rise up the ranks and compete for a Super Bowl?
Is this just pick one player or a few?
You can choose up to 3. How about that?
Up to 3.
But go one at a time because I don't want you stepping on my toes now. Go ahead.
Look, I ain't a toe stepper. I'm a hot stepper. All right.
Yeah, so, you're nimble. That's right. I got it.
I'm nimble in these streets. All right. So my guy right now that needs to have a breakout year because there's way too much slander. People are trying to bring in replacements that are not even on the same level as my guy. And that is BA, who I think is going to be WR1, Brandon Ayuk in year 3. The great JM, we on the same wavelength. Look, Brandon Ayuk has been running phenomenal routes the whole season. Brandon Ayuk's hands have been like Spider-Man webs the whole season. Brandon Ayuk has superhuman juke moves, has superhuman leaping ability, and we haven't been able to see any of them because there was a quarterback that was too scared to make the throw. Trey Lance is not scared to make that throw. So now Brandon Ayuk, hear me, So Real Suneil, I've been beating the drum, waving off all of these haters that trying to say that you aren't him. And I know you are him. But this is the year you got to do it. If you don't do it this year, there's nothing I can do for you, my guy. It's got to be this year. Brandon Ayuk, breakout season, over 1,200 yards, 7 to 8 touchdowns, all pro-like numbers. That's what I'm claiming. That's what I need from Brandon Ayuk this season.
Chat loves that. Emiliano says Tabor Pepper. He's always said, listen, Tabor Pepper, I love Tabor. I actually had a chance to talk with Tabor. Jack and I, hilarious guy. That dude he's funny. He's one of those guys that you would love to just have beers with and go do stupid stuff. Like Tabor Pepper is that dude for sure. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Brandon Ayuk, year 3. I think people write off players way too early. They see things like a Jamar Chase coming out and just lighting the league on fire, right? Obviously, they passed on CeeDee Lamb, so that's always going to be a comparison. But I look at Ayuk and I personally do feel like he's every bit or can be every bit as good as CeeDee Lamb. That's me personally. Like I don't look at anything that CeeDee Lamb does and go, "Oh my gosh, Brandon Ayuk could never." I really think he can be every bit as good. So for me, players get written off way too early. Year 3 is that real barometer for most players. Year 1, you're getting your footing, you figure some things out. He had a pretty decent rookie year. Year 2, people adjust to you. Takes you a while to pull out of that. I believe he did that. And then year 3, you've made your adjustments, and now the league is hip to what you're doing. You're hip to what the league's doing, and you are what you are at that point. Year 3, I agree. Brandon Ayuk is going to have a monster year. I feel like he does need to break out in order for this team to go to that next level. Absolutely. And by the way, people keep talking about Christian Watson. Okay, I don't mind bringing in Christian Watson depending on where you get him. But if you want to talk about having rapport with Trey Lance, that was so 2019. This is about to be 2022 season. This will be the second offseason in a row that Trey Lance has worked with Brandon Ayuk. I think those two are going to have a lot of chemistry, and I think that's going to help Brandon Ayuk have a breakout year. I am full on board with Brandon Ayuk. Now, I'm going to go a little bit of a step back. And I think that there is a big chance that Laken Tomlinson is not back. And even if he is back, I need either Aaron Banks or Jalen Moore, one or both, to break out this year. And I'm not saying break out to where they're stars. Like we're talking about Ayuk showing that he's a star in this league or can be. I need them to show that they are starting level players at the guard position and they can hold down one or both of those spots so that the 49ers can continue to be cheap in those positions and win games without paying a player like Laken Tomlinson, which again, you're going to have to let some of these guys go. You cannot always bring back every player. These are the decisions that are going to have to be made. I feel like either the Bengals or the Dolphins are going to be willing to pay a lot more for Tomlinson than what the 49ers can afford or are willing to pay. And one or both of those guys have to step up in order for the 49ers to continue to keep things going next year. Anybody else you want to throw in?
Yeah, I mean, I had first of all, I want to say I do agree with you when it comes to the offensive line guys. Like the 49ers have had a track record of making terrible decisions when it comes to drafting offensive linemen. Not only does it seem like they pick the wrong guys, but they also pass on the wrong guys, right? They pick a different player when they could have gotten a stud in the offensive line that they could have just never had to worry about that position for the next 10 years, right? Namely, picking maybe a guy like, passing on a guy, passing like picking Banks instead of Humphrey, and the year before picking Kinlaw instead of Wirfs, right? So they've just blundered that position. So definitely to save face for, I think, an organization that is getting better at drafting overall, those guys do need to prove that the 49ers are just not 100% inept at drafting offensive linemen. So I agree with you. However, there's a guy. I don't know if like somehow I created like an alternate, like handle or whatever. There's a guy by the name of Neil Jacobs that typed in like Bruh Neil. You know what I mean? And he just said the guy that I was gonna say. So look, I just made my stance to BA, bro. I've been banging the drum for you for the last 2 years. I think you're even better than Jefferson, my guy. That's how much I like BA. There's another guy, Jesse, that I've been banging the drum for ever since he got drafted, and that guy is Ambry Thomas. Ambry Thomas, you are also Himothy. And these guys are sleeping on you, my guy. They don't know that you were a 3-year starter at Michigan. They don't know that you love playing man-to-man and that you are Mr. Press him down. Pause. They also do not know that you missed the whole year because of COVID. You decided to be like, pass, I don't want to catch that. So I'm going to just sit me down. And that's the reason why it took me some time to get back into game shape. It took me some time to get back into understanding the speed of the game, that all of a sudden, second half of the season, they're like, oh, who is this guy, Ambry Thomas? If Ambry Thomas played his senior season, he would be a late first round, high second round draft pick. We got him as a steal in the third round. And he is going to be that dude. Look, the biggest issue that the 49ers have had on the defensive side, we talked about it earlier in this episode, is having a guy that can just lock up a star receiver, whether it be Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, D. Hopkins probably going to be back for Arizona. We need a guy to be that guy. And Ambry Thomas, you need to be that guy. You are crazy in the head in a good way for a cornerback. You have all the strength, all of the moves, all of the ability, all of the talent, and you have that mean streak in you, my guy. Break out! Break out! We need you to be him. So that's my other guy, my dude.
I love how you just got real quiet at the end. So that's my other guy. I'm real calm about it. Hey, Hella Hockey, make sure you stick around because we are going to address this. And I'm so glad that you came in. So make sure you stick around. Stick around because we are going to make sure that by the end of this stream, you feel much better about it. Trey Lance is not a running quarterback, but I don't want to give too much. All right. Just stick around. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Another player that needs to break out. Javon Kinlaw. Where have you been? And DJ Jones is another player that might not come back next year. We just talked about Lakin. DJ Jones has been a very, very good player for the 49ers for a few years now, and he's probably going to get paid somewhere. I would love to bring DJ Jones back, but let's not forget that Armstead had to move to the defensive tackle position because Javon Kinlaw got injured, and now he's had the surgery. Supposedly, they finally got things right in that knee. You need to show something. We talked about the 3-year rule with players, and Brandon Ayuk in year 3 should break out. Well, Kinlaw, this is your make or break. You have to break out this year. If you don't break out, the future is really in peril along that defensive line on the interior because you are relied on. They cannot continue to dump assets into that position. They cannot pay Armstead what they're paying him to be a defensive tackle while also paying for DJ Jones and giving up first-round picks for players to bust. You have to show out this year. You have to show that you can remain healthy. You have to be there for training camp. You've not had 2 straight training camps to start your NFL career. You are never going to be a successful player by missing training camps. You have to be there the whole way through and show that you can be healthy, show that you can be a force, and earn your keep as the first-round pick that you were brought in to change the interior part of that defensive line. We need that from you this next year.
Look, if Javon Kinlaw can't stay healthy this year, he has to retire them overalls. And he has to stop being squirrels because, look, bruh, you can't be coming in here overalled out, talking about squirrel eating, and then just be fragile, Mr. Glass up in these streets. You gotta be that dude. We traded away Buckner to get you, and you haven't even been able to stay on the field. I think he is a beast. I think he's going to be really good at helping us stop in the run game. And, he's going to be somebody who can take on those double teams to free up the edge rushers to be able to, just dominate on that defensive line. But, hey, the best ability is availability. And until you can figure that out, my dude, hey, maybe it's time to hang up them overalls, bro, and just put on some, khakis and, get some swag from Trent on the other side. He knows how to swag out big boys. So maybe you need to talk to him a little bit about that swag.
Yeah, he definitely does know how to do that. Real quick, there's 104 of you watching throughout all the platforms that we have. If you are not watching on YouTube, come on over to YouTube, type in Last Second Sports, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you never miss an episode. Make sure you tap in with my guy, Suneil here. The link is in the description for his channel. Show him some love. He's pressing that 700 mark. Let's get him there. Let's get him there tonight if we can. And I'm pressing that 4,000 mark. So let's try to get to 4,000. With your help, we can definitely make it happen. Make sure that you show some love while you're here. Would be greatly appreciated. Is there anybody else that you want to talk about before we move on to the final topic?
Nah, man. Those are the two guys, BA and Ambry. If you're listening, please subscribe to the channel, So Real Sports Talk TV. We would love to have interviews. I've been banging the drum for you guys a long time, and I believe that you aren't going to make a fool out of me this season. You guys are going to be the breakouts, and I already love you. The rest of the fans just need to jump on the train.
Well, speaking of jumping on the train, Trey Lance train, there is so much hate for a quarterback who has played 10 quarters in the NFL, hasn't played since 2019, really, a significant amount of games, came in, showed improvement from one game to the next, one play to the next, one half to the next, came in a crucial situation, having to win a game to make the playoffs, and there is so much hate thrown his way. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of comments, just like the gentleman made earlier, talking about how he's a running quarterback. I couldn't disagree with that more. I think we need to give a little reminder, like a public service announcement of why Trey Lance was the pick, why he is the right pick. Why should fans buy into Trey Lance, Mr. Suneil?
Look, let me get my Einsteins ready for this one. The reason why Trey Lance was drafted over guys like Justin Fields, over guys like Mac Jones, over guys like who was the guy who ended up going to Tampa Bay? I don't even know. He went in the second round. So let's not even talk about Trask. All right. The reason why guy like Lynch and Shanahan fell in love with the guy like Trey Lance wasn't because of his mobility, wasn't because of only his arm strength. Those were two of his biggest physical attributes. But you want to know the real reason, Jesse? It was what was in between his two ears. It was his ability to play a system similar to the system that the 49ers run. Out of all of those quarterbacks, and I learned this from being a subscriber to Last Second Sports, mind you, just another plug. This is how smart you get listening to Last Second Sports. But he was one of the only quarterbacks to actually man a huddle. He was one of the only quarterbacks that could play under center. He was one of the only quarterbacks that played highly in-depth play action type offense that the 49ers run. So for all of these people that just want to talk about his freak athletic ability, which is there, that wasn't even the main reason that the 49ers went after him. They went after him because of the way he thinks football. They went after him because of the way that he had been developed in a system at NDSU. And it was more the cerebral aspect of his game that made this team fall in love with him over all of those physical attributes. So, Jesse, where am I wrong?
You're not wrong. And Bryant says Zach Wilson would be a Niner if we had the second pick. Thank God we didn't have the second pick. I want no part of Zach Wilson. I wanted no part of Zach Wilson before the draft. It's all about Trey Lance, and it should have always been about Trey Lance. They made the right pick, period. And you talked about the mental game for him, right? Obviously, there's all the physical abilities. This man is mobile. He's got a strong arm. He's 6'4", 230 pounds, right? But the mental aspect is why I wanted Trey Lance to be a 49er, okay? When I first watched him, I said, this kid with Shanahan could be the biggest disaster because I felt like he was extremely raw and I didn't trust Shanahan to really build on him. But the more that I watched him and the more I got to know what type of player he was, not only through interviews, reading articles, but talking to his quarterback coach multiple times, I started to realize how good this kid is and how much of a savant he truly is, how much he loves the game, how hard of a worker he is, how much he's been pressed down and said that he cannot do it. Coming into college, teams wanted him from the Big Ten. They wanted him to be a safety or a linebacker. He wanted to play quarterback. That's why he ended up at NDSU. All right. And when you talk about the mental side, we talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and his limitations from a physical standpoint on a regular basis. What holds Jimmy back the most is not the physical, it is the mental. Like if I'm comparing Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance is way up here from a mental standpoint, and Jimmy Garoppolo is way down here. He makes the same mistakes over and over and over. They talk about how long it took him to really grasp the playbook. Trey Lance in 2 weeks knew the playbook. Now, that doesn't mean he's ready to execute the playbook, but everybody talks about learning the playbook and how verbose it is. He had it down in 2 weeks. His quarterback coach said that right here on Last Second Sports. And then Kyle Shanahan confirmed that before the Texans game. So these are things that we've been knowing about Trey Lance. A lot of people don't want to talk about those things. When Trey Lance breaks the pocket or gets mobile, he's looking to throw. This is not a run first quarterback. I understand that that is the perception based off of what you saw in the Arizona game. That was not Trey Lance's problem. That was Shanahan self admittedly not knowing how to use Trey Lance and using him in that manner. Okay. That is not a Trey Lance problem. That is not a Trey Lance trait. In fact, I would argue that he's not the most athletic guy when he looks to break the pocket outside of the tackle box. That is not really a big part of his game. He looks to stay in the pocket, move around, shuck off a tackle, look downfield, and then if he has nothing, he'll break it up the middle. That is a strength of his. But this man also plays very conservative. The one thing, Suneil, interestingly enough, that actually gave me the biggest room for pause when I watched Trey Lance is that I thought he was almost too conservative considering all the athletic ability that he brought to the table. What changed my mind and what showed me that that is not necessarily the case is that practice footage that came out over the last week, showing the creativity. Now, I know that he's always been able to improvise, right? Break the pocket, keep his eyes downfield, make certain throws, roll out left. Instead of looking at the 5-yard check down like Shanahan wants him to, he's going to throw 15 yards downfield and complete a pass. He's always been able to improvise. But one thing that, in talking about Zach Wilson, that I did like about Zach Wilson was the arm angles and the creativities of his throws. I didn't see that from Trey Lance. You see that from Mahomes. You see that from Allen. And Trey Lance never really showed me a lot of that. He certainly showed me that in a lot of those practice clips. I'm even more excited and more confident than I was in Trey Lance a year ago. And if you heard me talk about Trey Lance a year ago, you know that I was all in on this kid. I thought he would be a starter day one. I thought he should have been a starter day one. I stand by that. Trey Lance is going to be that deal. And I promise you, if you don't get on board now, every single one of us are going to keep receipts and you're going to look real silly when this man at the end of 2023 looks like the best quarterback out of this draft and is a consistent top 5 to 7 quarterback in the NFL, because that is exactly what he's going to be. So jump on the train now. I've given you chances all last offseason. Before the draft, I told you this man was going to be the pick. I told you he was going to be the pick, and I told you he was the right pick. Now we've had a year. You've seen glimpses of it. Get on board before it's too late, because I promise you he will make you look silly if you don't.
Bruh. That's all I got to say about that, my man. Look, that second half against Houston, if you didn't see it, in a game that was a must win for the 49ers to, have any chance at making the playoffs that year or last year, I mean, that was enough for me. You saw what he could do. And here's the thing, Jesse, like, I'm not sitting here and saying that Trey Lance next year is going to be Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen. Like, I don't, or even Joey Burrow. I'm a big Joey Burrow fan. I don't know if Trey Lance is going to be able to be like that elk quite yet. Because look, he didn't come from one of these top conferences. He is somebody who is still polishing his ability, but the upside that this guy has shown and the willingness to continue to get better, the leadership attributes that it seems like he has, the knowledge that he constantly wants to gain, his ability to get better and better each quarter that he plays. These are attributes that I'm looking for in a quarterback that I want to lead my team. On top of that, he does have the physical capability to make those wow plays. And we haven't had a wow quarterback with the 49ers since Cap. And let's be honest, Cap, a lot of his wow moments were more with what he could do with his feet versus what he was doing with his arm. And I think that Trey is going to make all of those wow plays with his arm, which is what we've been envious when it comes to watching a Josh Allen play in Buffalo. What we are envious of when we see Justin Herbert play for the Chargers. What we're envious in what Patrick Mahomes could do with Kansas City, and what we just saw Joe Burrow be able to do with Cincinnati. We want that quarterback that could just tear things up with his arm, and I believe Trey Lance has that ability. I don't know if it's going to show right away next season, but I think it's going to show in glimpses of next season. I think that he has enough to keep this team a double-digit winning team and in the playoffs making deep runs. And I could only imagine what it's going to be like 2 years from now when he's fully confident, when we're done with all of this BS about other quarterbacks being brought into the team to start over Trey, when it's just this is Trey's team. Is going to be phenomenal. And I've already said it on other shows. I think Trey Lance takes the 49ers back to being a dynasty-changing type of team where they are the next dynasty in the NFC and will forever be competitive to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl from next year on. They're going to be that team, and it's going to be because of what Trey Lance is going to bring to them as the starting quarterback.
Felt like that was a great way to put a stamp on the show. Absolutely fantastic stuff from you, Suneil. You came in fired up. Again, make sure you subscribe to him. Everything is down in the description to do so. Make sure you subscribe here if you've not done so. Hit that bell notification. And we just started our membership program here at Last Second Sports. Check that out. Either $1.99 a month or $4.99 a month with a ton of extra perks. We appreciate each and every one of you. This crew will be back next Tuesday. I will be back tomorrow with the open mic call-in show. So if you guys are fired up about Trey Lance, if you want to talk about anything that we talked about tonight or anything else that's on your mind, tap in tomorrow night, 10:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 in the West. Get your takes off. Call in. Peace.